Is it cheaper to build your own deck, DIY style, or to hire a contractor? Let's find out. But why go small when we can go huge and save more money? Oh yeah, and the space? This is where we're going to build it. Starting with the layout lines, we're going to get this baby nice and square. Before I go over the price quotes from contractors and the cost breakdown to go the DIY route, I wanted to take a beat and explain why I've been DIYing so many outdoor projects lately. You see, last year we bought this house, and it was a boring builder-grade home, although we loved it. But basically, that's a fancy way of saying it's a blank canvas, and I want to customize it. At least the artist in me is saying that. And with inflation through the roof, I plan to DIY my entire home into a place we never want to leave. I mean, that's the goal anyway. And since summer is around the corner and the weather is heating up, let's turn my backyard into an oasis, one project at a time. That's literally what I keep telling my wife. Now, I don't mind investing money and sweat equity into my home. I mean, why not? I would rather do that instead of wasting money on travel. Traveling is fun, but lately, if you haven't noticed, it's kind of a nightmare out there in the world. If you want to take a family trip to Disney or somewhere like that, it's going to cost between $5,000 and $9,000 for a few days. And we're not even talking about the food or the fuel or the plane rides. I never understand this time of the year. Literally, everyone I know immediately starts setting up trips and vacations. And I always ask myself, why? You're going to spend a fortune on a vacation just to be crammed up and sandwiched between others on a flight. Or worse, drive for several hours on a miserable car ride, and then stop and snap selfies at Buc-ee's as if it was an awesome destination. I mean, it's a gas station, right? I'm not picking on Buc-ee's. I've never been there, but I'm sure it's awesome. If you've been there, by the way, let me know. I gotta know what's so big about it. What's so cool? Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with traveling, and if you love to travel, that's cool with me. I just personally would like to invest my time and money into my home, so it's a place that I never want to travel away from. And with inflation and mortgage rates and everything what it is, I mean, our house payments are kind of like a vacation, are they not? They're so expensive. Why would I spend all this money on this house just to try to leave it every chance I get? Call me old-fashioned, but that's the way I see it. Oh, and did you see these little stop portion blocks I put on top of the joist? These are ensuring that the whole thing is flat. That way I won't have any highs or lows. And the lag screws, here's what I've been using. My boys supervised, but I do want to say off camera I came back in with some large lag bolts just to reinforce the structural soundness of these floor joists. After all, we don't want any sagging on the deck. And I know I'm just a DIYer, but I would like to come across as professional as I can. All right. You want to talk numbers. I know. Let's go over some. So for contractors to do a deck this size with pressure-treated lumber, concrete, nails, screws, composite decking, you name it, it was going to be around $50 to $60 a square foot. So that's around $15,000 to $16,000 cost for a contractor to come out and do this. And this technique right here is called blocking. What this does is it helps stabilize the deck laterally with movement. You see, sometimes when you're framing, it kind of stands up like a deck of cards. Picture building a tower out of cards and it wants to sway side to side. Well, that blocking ensures that it won't. And this tape, now this was crazy. I would rather go makeup shopping with my wife before ever doing that again. But the professional deck guys are putting this tape down everywhere, and it's basically waterproofing the top layer of the pressure-treated lumber. And I know, I get it. You're thinking like I am, but it's pressure-treated lumber. It's going to last a long time. And that is true. But this is just one extra measure, and it's the latest in carpentry to do it, so why not? Anything I can help mitigate water, I think is the best way to go. This is my first deck build. I've built a lot of things before, but I've never done this. And I've definitely never used composite decking. This stuff is awesome. Now it is kind of heavy, but the finished look, nothing compares to it. It's really legit. And it's going to last a long time. Now the only downside that I've noticed while building is it's prone to scratches. So that's kind of a bummer, especially with kids running all over it. But we'll see how it holds up. The deck goes together really well. It's got these hidden fasteners that are in between each plank. And you have to screw them down, which makes it really cool and snug to the floor joist. But the only bummer is you have to be squatting, so your lower back is killing you the entire time. So if you're a deck guy, I definitely want you to chime in and let me know, if I build a deck again, is there a technique or a way I can do this without having to bend over and stay hunched like this? It was terrible. Okay, let's talk my cost. I bought my materials from Lowe's, and since I went big, I was able to save nearly $1,200 in material cost. Wow, that's a huge savings if you ask me. But I guess since you're not, we'll just move on. But because the materials were in bulk, I was able to save 10%. And I got a military discount for another 10% off. I mean, how do you beat that? And by the way, I did comparison shopping from other large companies, and they were nearly $2,000 more expensive in just the material cost. My total cost with all materials included was $4,400. That's awesome, right? Now, I did get a huge discount of 20% like I explained before, but I still think that's fantastic. This deck is huge. It's almost 400 square feet. Just a little under, really. That was a good miter joint, right? And you see these seams right here? They look pretty rough. But I always meant for it to be like that. You see, I didn't want two butt joints coming together, so I decided I was going to run a border right down the middle, and I used my track saw to cut this out. That came out really well. Now we just have to see if this border is going to pop into place and see if I got my measurements right. Because if I'm wrong, that's not going to be good. Oh, yes. Add a little foot pressure, and before you know it, it's beautiful. I think I got lucky, to be honest. But we have to drill these things down from the top, but they come with these really cool plugs. Look at this. It's just going to disappear on you. How cool. Man, they really thought of everything. But yeah, I left this back portion off. I've told you before, and I'll say it again. I've got ADHD, and I just wanted to stop and see what the picture frame border was going to look like. So, you know how it is. But I moved on, I came back to it, I got it done. I worked on those corners and got that picture frame wrapped all the way around this deck. This was really satisfying, and if I had to say it, it was the funnest part of the entire project. Let's do a recap of the numbers. My cost was $4,400, and a professional contractor was $15,000 on the low end. But I know what you're thinking. I didn't count my time or labor, and that's because this project was for me, not for a customer. And I did it after hours and on my time, free time. I didn't take away from my job. So DIYing like that, it's the way to go. I mean, I saved nearly $11,000. I would say that's a huge savings. But at the last minute, I decided to wrap the entire deck with a border, and I wanted to close off the bottom where the grade went down. I was a little bit worried about snakes or rodents, just wanting to nestle up under there. Now, what would I do? I have no idea. I don't want to hurt any creatures or any snakes, but I would like to deter them. So if you have an idea with that, let me know, because I know this extra blocking I did is not going to help. But it did help with the appearance of the deck, so that way it wouldn't appear unsightly with the grade dropping down. Take a look at this and tell me what you think. Pretty great for a first-time deck, right? It's completely flat, all the seams are perfect. It looks really well. I love it. I'm digging it. And more off, I hope my family's going to really enjoy it. I know my wife's going to enjoy trying to pick out some furniture for it. But this thing was legit. I literally had a blast, minus the backaches and living off of ibuprofen for 2 weeks while I built it. But here it is, and it's just time to take a nap. So would you DIY it?